Pain, you see, is not something to be feared or avoided at all costs. It's a natural part of the rhythm of life, as much a part of the human experience as joy, love, or laughter. When we label pain as the enemy, we set ourselves up for a struggle, a futile battle against what is already here. But in truth, pain is not a threat, it's a messenger, carrying valuable information if we're willing to listen. Consider how the body uses pain to alert us. A sharp sensation in your foot might mean you've stepped on something sharp. Emotional pain might point to a wound in your heart that needs attention. Without these signals, we would be unaware of the deeper imbalances within us. Pain is not a punishment, it's a call to awareness, a teacher that invites us to grow, to reflect, and to adapt. When we resist pain, treating it as a mistake or a flaw, we actually tighten its grip. Resistance creates tension, a doubling down on the sensation that amplifies it rather than easing it. But when we soften our stance and approach pain with curiosity rather than fear, something shifts. We begin to see it for what it is, a fleeting experience, a wave that rises and falls, passing through the vast ocean of our being. To view pain as the enemy is to misunderstand its role in the grand tapestry of life. It's neither good nor bad, it simply is. And in accepting it, we create space to move through it, to let it teach us what it will, and to eventually let it go. Pain, like everything else in life, is impermanent. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, though in the moment it might feel all-encompassing, as though it will last forever. But this is not its nature. Pain arises, takes form, and eventually fades, much like waves cresting and breaking on the shore. Each wave may feel powerful, even overwhelming, but no wave stays, it always dissolves back into the vast ocean. This impermanence is the essence of pain. Even when it lingers, it shifts, sometimes subtly, other times dramatically. What was once sharp might become dull, what was constant might give way to moments of reprieve. If you observe closely, you'll notice that pain is never static. It moves, it fluctuates, it transforms. This movement is a reminder that pain, no matter how intense, is part of the flow of life and cannot last forever. The transient nature of pain also holds a profound lesson. It invites patience. When you allow yourself to sit with pain, without clinging to it or pushing it away, you begin to see it as part of the ever-changing current of existence. The more you resist, the more it seems to persist, but when you soften into it, you start to notice its impermanence. Even in the darkest moments when pain feels unyielding, the truth remains: it will pass. It may not disappear as quickly as you hope, and it may leave a mark, but it cannot define the whole of your experience. It is a temporary visitor, not a permanent resident. This realization can bring a sense of freedom, not from pain itself, but from the fear of its permanence. You are not trapped by pain, you are simply witnessing its journey through the landscape of your life. When pain arises, our natural instinct is often to resist it. We tense up, push it away, or try to distract ourselves, believing that by doing so we can lessen its impact or make it disappear. But resistance, far from alleviating pain, intensifies it. It's as though the very act of fighting creates friction, adding layers of tension and discomfort to an already challenging experience. Imagine holding a clenched fist for hours. The initial sensation might just be mild discomfort, but the longer you hold on, the more the pain grows, not because of the original feeling, but because of the strain of resistance. Emotional and physical pain work much the same way. When we resist, we tighten around the pain, magnifying its intensity and extending its stay. This is not to say that pain is easy to bear, but our resistance often stems from the belief that pain is wrong, that it shouldn't be here. That belief fuels the struggle, turning what could be a passing wave into a storm that rages on. Resistance keeps us locked in the experience, drawing our attention more deeply into the sensation and amplifying our suffering. On the other hand, when we let go of resistance, we begin to notice something remarkable. The pain itself might remain, but the suffering diminishes. By softening into the experience, by allowing it to be what it is without judgment or fear, we create space for the pain to move through us. Resistance is like a dam holding back water, causing pressure to build, while acceptance is the act of opening the gates, letting the water flow naturally and freely. The key is not to fight pain, but to observe it, to acknowledge its presence without clinging to it or pushing it away. This doesn't mean you have to like it or welcome it. It simply means letting go of the struggle. In doing so, you strip pain of its power to control you, and it often becomes something far less overwhelming than it seemed when resistance was in full force. When faced with pain, the instinct to resist is strong. We want to push it away, to avoid it, or to suppress it entirely. But resistance often adds tension, intensifying the pain and prolonging our struggle. Instead of meeting pain with resistance, there's another approach: curiosity. By shifting our perspective, we can transform the experience into something less daunting and more illuminating. Curiosity invites us to explore pain with openness rather than fear. What does this sensation actually feel like? Is it sharp or dull, constant or pulsating? Where does it reside in the body, or how does it manifest in the mind? These questions, simple as they seem, turn our attention away from rejection and toward observation. Pain, in this light, becomes something to study rather than flee. This approach doesn't mean we enjoy the pain or wish it upon ourselves. It means treating it as a phenomenon, like a cloud passing in the sky or a ripple on a pond. When we look at pain through the lens of curiosity, we create a space where it can simply exist without overwhelming us. We might notice that it changes moment to moment, that it is not as solid or permanent as it initially seemed. Curiosity also helps us uncover the messages that pain carries. Physical pain might draw our attention to something in the body that needs care, while emotional pain might point to a deeper need, perhaps for healing, connection, or understanding. Resistance obscures these insights, but curiosity reveals them, offering opportunities for growth and transformation. This shift requires courage. It's not easy to turn toward what we instinctively want to avoid, but in doing so, we discover that pain loses some of its grip. It becomes less a fearsome adversary and more a part of the human experience, something to be met with interest and even compassion. Through curiosity, we not only lessen the intensity of pain, but also deepen our understanding of ourselves. Pain is often seen as an intruder, an unwelcome disruption in the flow of life. But in truth, it is an inseparable part of the whole. Just as shadows are born of light, pain arises alongside joy, sadness alongside happiness. To view life as a complete tapestry is to recognize that pain has its place, woven into the fabric as naturally as any other thread. It is neither an error nor an interruption, but a natural part of the human experience. Consider how contrast shapes our perception. Without the chill of winter, would we truly appreciate the warmth of spring? Without moments of struggle, would triumph feel as sweet? Pain offers depth and dimension to our lives, allowing us to experience the full spectrum of being. It reminds us of our aliveness, of the capacity to feel deeply even when what we feel is uncomfortable. Life is not a series of isolated moments, but a continuous flow, a river carrying all things pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow. To resist pain is to resist the river itself, to attempt to carve out only the pleasant parts while discarding the rest. But in doing so, we lose the richness of the journey, the wholeness of what it means to be alive. Pain also has the power to connect us. It is one of the most universal experiences, a thread that ties all living beings together. In acknowledging our own pain, we begin to see it in others, fostering compassion and understanding. It teaches us empathy, the ability to hold space for another's suffering without judgment or fear. When we stop viewing pain as separate, as something to be avoided or denied, we begin to see it as a part of the larger dance of life. It is not the entirety of existence, but it is a note in the symphony, adding depth and resonance. By embracing pain as part of the whole, we allow ourselves to live more fully, to move with the ebb and flow of life rather than against it. To embrace all sensations, one must step beyond the notion that some experiences are good while others are bad. Sensation in its purest form, is simply the raw material of our existence, the colors of our experience, and the music of life itself. We often divide sensations into categories of pleasant and unpleasant, but when we allow ourselves to fully engage with all of them without judgment or resistance, we open ourselves to the totality of what it means to be alive. When we feel pleasure, it's easy to be present, to welcome it, to savor it. But when discomfort arises, we tend to push it away, to avoid it, or to judge it as something that should not be there. This creates a divide, a separation between the parts of ourselves we deem acceptable and those we reject. Yet the more we reject discomfort, the more power it has over us. In truth, both pleasure and pain are equally transient, both equally valuable in their own way. To embrace all sensations means to stop fearing discomfort, to meet it as we would a friend we don't yet understand. Instead of running from a sharp pain or a wave of sadness, we pause and allow ourselves to feel it, to experience it fully. By doing this, we remove the charge of resistance, and in that space the sensation can move through us more freely. This doesn't mean we should seek pain for its own sake, but rather that we don't need to fear it when it arises. Consider the vastness of the human experience. Joy, sorrow, anger, peace, hunger, warmth, cold, all these sensations are part of the same fabric of life. Each one provides a different texture, a different hue, a different experience. When we only accept certain sensations, we are denying ourselves the fullness of what life has to offer. We are limiting our connection to the richness of the world and the depth of our own humanity. Embracing all sensations also means accepting the transient nature of each one. None of them lasts forever. The pain that feels unbearable in one moment may ease and fade away in the next. The joy that lifts us up may shift into something else, but in its impermanence we find freedom. Each sensation, whether light or heavy, is an invitation to live fully in the present moment, to accept the ebb and flow of experience as part of the grand dance of existence. When we embrace all sensations, we move beyond the duality of good and bad, right and wrong, and instead begin to see everything as part of the whole. We learn to experience life not as a series of isolated moments to be controlled, but as a dynamic unfolding, rich with every kind of sensation. And in that embrace, we discover the peace that comes from fully inhabiting the moment, no matter what it brings. The tide always turns, no matter how unyielding the storm, or how long the calm. This truth is woven into the very fabric of nature. The ocean, though vast and seemingly endless, is never still. Its waters are in constant motion. The waves rise, they crest, they crash, but eventually they subside. The ebb and flow of the tide is a natural rhythm, one that mirrors the unfolding of life itself. In moments of pain, it can feel as though the tide has receded into an endless trough, that we are stuck in a deep valley with no hope of rising. But this is the illusion, the idea that things will remain fixed, that the circumstances we face are permanent. When we are caught in the grip of suffering or hardship, it's easy to forget that everything is temporary. Just as the ocean's waves are never fixed in one position, neither are the moments of difficulty we face. The tide always turns because change is the essence of existence. Life is not linear, nor is it a constant state of one thing. It is cyclical, ever-shifting, with moments of intensity giving way to periods of rest and renewal. When we are in the thick of discomfort, it can seem as though it will never end, but in reality it is already in the process of shifting. The pain, the frustration, the sadness, these are not permanent states, but phases that will eventually fade into something new. This truth can offer a deep sense of comfort. When we accept that nothing is permanent, we release the pressure to fix our circumstances, to push against the tide. Instead of fighting, we can learn to flow with it. In times of joy and ease, we must also remember that these too will change, but this realization is not one of despair, it is liberating. It allows us to fully enjoy the present moment, knowing that it will evolve just as everything else does. The ebb and flow are inevitable. Whether we resist or surrender, the tide will turn. It is this constant flux that creates the texture of life, giving us both contrast and depth. When we are at our lowest, we can trust that the tide will rise again, bringing new opportunities, new experiences, and new perspectives. It's in the turning of the tide that we are reminded of life's resilience, its ability to renew itself, and our own capacity to rise with it. When pain arises, whether physical or emotional, it can be easy to identify with it as though it defines you. You may think, I am in pain, or this pain is who I am, but this is a misidentification. Pain is simply an experience, not the essence of who you are. You are not the pain, just as the sky is not the storm that passes through it. The storm may be intense, it may darken the sky, but the sky itself remains untouched, vast and ever-present. Pain, in its many forms, comes and goes. It appears, it lingers, and eventually it fades away. But throughout it all, you, the awareness behind the experience, remain constant. The pain may be sharp, heavy, or persistent, but it cannot alter the essence of who you truly are. You are the witness to the pain, the one who observes it without being consumed by it. Just as the ocean is not the wave, you are not the pain. You are the vastness that allows the wave to rise and fall. When we identify ourselves with our pain, we make it personal. We begin to believe that it's something that belongs to us, something that we must carry or be burdened by forever. But the reality is that pain does not have an inherent identity. It's a sensation, a response, an event in the unfolding of life. And just like every sensation, it is impermanent. It will not last forever. The pain you feel is not who you are, but simply what you are experiencing in the present moment. This understanding doesn't make the pain disappear, but it does offer a shift in perspective. Instead of being enveloped by the sensation, you can step back and observe it. You can be with it without merging with it. You can allow the pain to exist without allowing it to define you. The awareness within you, that quiet observer, remains untouched by the pain. It is like the sky that witnesses the storm, but the sky itself is unchanged, vast and open. You are the space in which everything happens, the pain, the joy, the thoughts, and the emotions. The pain may come and go, but you, the space, the awareness, remain. And when you remember this, the power of pain to control you diminishes. You can experience it fully, yet remain free from its grasp. You are the witness to the dance of life, not the dancer being pulled around by the rhythm. In the end, pain is not an adversary to be conquered, nor a permanent fixture in our lives. It is a part of the ebb and flow of existence, a transient wave in the vast ocean of experience. When we stop resisting it, when we approach it with curiosity and acceptance, we realize that it is not something to fear or avoid. Instead, it becomes a teacher, a guide that offers us deeper insight into the nature of our own being. We are not defined by our pain, nor are we trapped by it. Pain is simply a sensation passing through us, not the essence of who we are. The tide of life is ever turning, and just as joy and ease arise, so too will discomfort and hardship ebb away. Through it all, we remain the vast, unchanging awareness in which everything unfolds. When we embrace all sensations without judgment, we open ourselves to the richness of life in all its dimensions. We learn to flow with the currents of existence, knowing that no experience, no matter how intense, can last forever. Ultimately, it is not the pain that defines us, but our ability to witness it with openness, to move through it with grace, and to remember that